how do you overcome fear of failure? Now, this is a great one. People do fear of failure, whether it's in competitions or outside of your sport as well. So everything I share can be used in your sport, but also in your day-to-day life as well, because to have optimal performance in your sport, you want to be firing on all cylinders in your life and achieving a balance that works for you so you can have optimal performance and happiness in the best way possible in every single area. So fear of failure. When we have a fear of failure, it's important to know that we've stated it as a fact. I have a fear of failure about a race, for example. And the problem with this sentence, I have a fear of failure about a race, is there's no other alternative. You have a fear, it's about failing, and that's it. That's all that can be done. You have it, and there's not really much wiggle room or way out or a different mindset or way of thinking. So the first thing you want to add into this sentence is the do. I am doing a fear around failing my race. And this now, instead of it being a statement, is now becoming something you're doing. And that is a very powerful place. You're claiming back your personal power. And now it's like, well, okay, if I'm doing fear of failure around the race, what can I do instead that's more helpful? So I always ask an athlete when they say, I'm doing fear of failure, it's like, okay, well, if you're doing this fear, like, how would you love to think instead? How would you love to feel and think about this race instead? And then they'll say, like, I want to feel really confident. I want to feel powerful. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like I can crush it. And that's great, because then we can work out, okay, well, what is the one thing that needs to happen in order for you to feel those things, to feel like you can crush it, that you have this incredible confidence, strength, and power? What do you need in order to do that? Because we often tell ourselves a story around this failure, and it can be videos, it can be images, and it can be around that's not even going to happen, but we create this story for ourselves, and we need to change that narrative. And often when we say we have this fear of failing in a race, and it could be because, oh, I'm really bad at changing tires, I don't think I'm a fast enough swimmer, or I think I'm a slow swimmer, I think I'm a slow runner, I'm really weak on the bike, so I'm not going to hit the time and I'm going to fail. Now, the problem here is that actually none of that could even be true. It's a reality that your brain unconsciously and unintentionally has created. And this is the narrative you're telling yourself. So when I ask an athlete, how would you love to feel instead? We're now recreating the narrative. We're going to recreate the images, the videos, the self-talk, and we're going to make sure it's now aligned with their goals. So a great way of really to overcome this fear of failure is to first think, I am doing this fear around failing in the race. How would you love to feel instead? And then to go dive into real deep detail using powerful, positive, productive language. So instead of saying I'm a slow swimmer, I'm a fast swimmer, or I'm swimming as fast as I can, or I'm getting better and better every single day, or I'm the best swimmer I can be. So you want to start thinking these things and writing it into the story of you smashing your race and having a really great race and what would that feel like and look like. And now you can start to get there. And then every time that voice comes up in your ear that says, hey, you're going to fail, or you feel the fear in your body, pause and literally say pause. And this will stop the synapse really activating and strengthening your pathway around fear and around failure and around your race. You hit the pause button, that synapse is going to stop in its tracks, and then it's like, I feel confident about my race. And then you dive into the visualization you've written down over how you're going to crush it and how it's going to feel to be really, really amazing. And that is going to activate, it's going to strengthen the neuropathways around race, around confidence, around power, strength, fun, enjoyment. And these are the pathways you really want to be activating and strengthening. And so it's very important when you're doing unhelpful feelings to think, well, how would I love to feel instead? And then dive into visualization, which represents how you'd want to feel, because it's strengthening those neuropathways. So the more and more, your brain is like a group of muscles. The more you strengthen one set of neuropathways, the stronger, faster, better they become at their job. The less you train or strengthen the unhelpful neuropathways that get you to unhelpful and unresourceful states, like doing fear of failure, and the weaker and weaker they become because you're activating them less and less and less. And this is like if you're at the gym, if you're to just strengthen one arm, it's going to get super strong, your left arm would get weaker and weaker in comparison. Or it just would get weaker because you're not training it. And that's how your brain works. You want to strengthen the best neuropathways for you so they become really strong, and you want to get the other ones weaker and weaker so they become harder and harder to activate and trigger, which means you enter that thought, that state of doing fear of failure less and less and less, and that just doesn't become the narrative anymore. The narrative is now becoming that I'm going to crush my freaking race. So that is one of the most powerful ways you can overcome doing fear of failure around racing. It can be helpful if you are doing failures to recognize why you think you could fail the race, and then is there a weakness you need to train. And that's great if you can reflect with the coach as well, just so you have a second opinion, because sometimes what we see as a weakness actually isn't a weakness. What we see as a bad performance isn't necessarily a bad performance. So it's important to really evaluate what you're doing fear of failure around in a very kind of unbiased third-party way. That means you can have a more, what's the word I'm looking for? But you're looking at it in a more, it's on the tip of my tongue. What is that word? But you're looking at your performance in a unbiased way, which means you can really see it for what it truly is. So it's more, your performance is what it is. It's not you putting your feelings into your performance. You're becoming objective. That's the word I was looking for. So instead of being subjective around your performance, you're now going to become objective, which is the key to evaluating a race in a very powerful, positive, productive way. So I hope that helps you with doing fear of failure and coming out the other side and having really changing that narrative and having a really amazing thought process around your race and competition.